Hey and welcome to Beyond the Pouch, a podcast series brought to you by Pelican, Respond and Eakin, where your hosts Rachel and Louise dive into the world of ostomy through open and honest conversations, including the lives of many inspirational ostomates, so you can get to know them beyond the pouch.
Welcome back for another episode of Beyond the Pouch. If you haven't caught our other episodes, head over to Spotify or YouTube to have a listen and a watch. Today, we are very happy to welcome a friend of ours, Summer, who's also an ambassador with us, who has been through so much in your not so long life. How are we?
And
Lovely
she's just
to see you.
absolutely gorgeous.
How old are you?
23.
Oh, you're such a baby.
No, you're not. You're a strong, independent woman. Cut that out.
Okay.
No, you've been through a hell of a lot, and you are very positive, very humble. You know, talk about hidden illnesses. You are such a pure example of the fact that you would not know that anything is going on. So how have you been lately? How's your health?
Yeah, good. Well, I had, obviously, since the buyback surgery last year, I've been absolutely fine. No issues, no problems. Back to being healthy, which is great.
Oh, and how old were you when you first started having symptoms? How was your journey panned out?
So I was about 19, 18 when it first started. I was at university in my first year. So it started in like the February when I was 18. Didn't get diagnosed until the June, so just after my 19th birthday. And it just sort of spiraled quite quickly from there. So I had, obviously, as you know, many tests done, various trips to A&E in that period. Just couldn't work out what was wrong with me. I lost a lot of weight. I was just going to the toilet probably like 30 times a day, not sleeping, not eating, just overall very unwell. And as soon as they'd done the colonoscopy for the first time, they were like, yeah, it's very obvious that you've got colitis and it's in your whole large bowel. So I sort of went on steroids straight away, and they just wouldn't work. It just wasn't a high enough dosage. So I ended up being admitted onto sort of IV steroids, and that was probably like midsummer. And they wouldn't let me go home unless I had one of the what they called autoimmune injections. So I started that, had that in hospital, got all of the funding, which obviously is quite difficult to get, and left hospital on that. Thought I was sort of doing okay, went back to uni. And then it sort of went from there. But that's probably like the start. So like the initial sort of, few months. Yeah.
How did you find the Inflix M? Because people don't realise that it's when it gets to the point of having to have your immune system suppressed because your immune system is basically fighting your body. I don't think they understand, obviously, the risks that there are for us to, one, take those injections, and two, for you, part of this was during COVID as well.
Yeah, so once I had the sort of injections, I then moved on to Inflix M, where you obviously have to have it in hospital for the day infusions. It started just before COVID. I remember being in for a day infusion, and all these nurses were like rushing into the room next to me in full hazmat, head to toe PPE. And I remember saying to my dad, that person's definitely got COVID. And this was like pre-COVID lockdown. A few weeks later, the day therapies got moved to the private hospital because they said they couldn't have people having, immune suppressants right next to the COVID ward.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting. It's a very interesting time. It was a bit of a novelty. It was, it was a day out to go to the hospital and have the treatments. But I remember being just really anxious, especially when lockdown first happened, because, like you say, you haven't got an immune system. There's this big scary thing about, and you just don't know how you're going to react to it.
How did you find that with COVID and university, and obviously being immunocompromised? Did you feel that you couldn't do anything and that you was being isolated and staying away from people because you didn't want to, because we didn't know what COVID was at the time. It was this big, massive, scary thing.
Yeah. So Going back a bit, I actually moved back from uni in the following, so like 2019 being like the November, sort of pre the lockdown the following year, because it was sort of start of my second year and I just got so ill. I wasn't getting the support I needed I was up in Newcastle, wasn't getting the support I needed up there from the hospital. So I ended up just having to come home because I couldn't do my degree with how ill I was. That was the first time they actually said to me about stoma, and I just refused. I said, I'm not having that. I said, I don't want to have that so soon. I haven't tried much. And I was very anti it to begin with. So that sort of happened, pre that. So, when lockdown did come, I was on a bit of a gap year, just to obviously try and, recover and, improve my health.
I mean, how did you find, you said obviously you refused to have a stoma, I'm not having that. What were your reasons for at the time for saying no to that, even though we now know that you've had the surgery? Why was you so adamantly against it at that time?
So at the time, I just felt like they were almost cheating me in a way. I felt that they were doing it to shut me up, to, stop giving me the treatments, because I don't know how many you guys had, but I found it really hard to get funding for the different biological treatments.
Which is always difficult.
Yeah, so I found it really difficult to get the funding in the first place because they are a very expensive drug, but it's the only thing they can really give you when you've got, really severe colitis or Crohn's. So I just felt like I hadn't tried enough medical options. I was just thinking, what if they find a cure in the next year? What if something changes and, something comes about and, I've missed out on that? I was just very adamant I needed some more time to try some other things.
Was you adamant no because of your preconception of what a stoma was?
Yeah, that definitely played a part in it. At this point, I didn't know that, people do what we do and you're ambassadors for companies and, spread awareness. And I didn't know that whole Instagram scene was even a thing. I just didn't want to be the only person my age with a stoma, and because let's be honest, the stigma is only old people have stomas.
Yeah, and I suppose we, even on social media, there aren't many people as young as yourself on there. You're busy living your lives. Not many people your age have started having families yet, and you're out there and you're doing degrees and you're doing this, that. You don't really see a lot of people in their late teens putting themselves out there, do you? It's
the evolution of social media. I mean, Summer's now 23. I was 23 when I had my first stoma, which was back Facebook had only been about for a year, not even a year after when I had my stoma surgery. So it's difficult to think that even with the evolution of social media, that unless you actually go looking for it, unless you know what you are looking for, or in the field of doing what we do, it can feel very isolating. And I mean, what made you decide to have the surgery if you were so adamantly against it the first time round?
So basically what happened, I had the Inflix M for about a year. It worked for probably about 6 months. It's probably the only 6 months I had actually in remission during that time period. Post that, I then had a year. The funding stops after a year and they wouldn't then fund it again. And I'd basically developed antibodies against it. So they couldn't give it anyway.
Oh,
how bad did they restart the infusion before they found out you had the antibodies? Because this is a common thing that happens with infliximab, because infliximab over all of the biosimilars or the immunosuppressants that they treat IBD with, infliximab is meant to be the miracle drug for most people to try and avoid having the surgery. But the problem that you've got to treat IBD, you have to stay on those immunosuppressants. And if they stop them, you're then at the risk of, like Summer or myself, with developing antibodies. And they didn't know until I had just anaphylactic shock as the infusion was going through. So did they test you for the antibodies prior to trying to restart? Or did they restart, found out you had the antibodies and were like, oh, no?
No, so they wanted to obviously apply for funding again. And during that process, part of the process was to be tested for antibodies. And, it eventually basically stopped working, came off it, and, I couldn't go back on it. So they then said to me, let's be honest, you've got one more option now. You've got one more choice before you need to have the surgery. To have as many biologicals as I did, in such a short period of time, they said, this is really your last hope now. And that shocked me, upset me as well, to basically be told you've got three choices. If none of these work, then we can't help you anymore.
Was that the Ento or was that the Humira, the last one that they tried you on?
The last one is I can't think of the name now. It's probably...
If it's the adalimumab, was it the grey syringe?
No, it's the actual... You have to learn to, take it out of the sort of container. It's the proper needle syringe. It's not the EpiPen one.
The Stellara.
I think that's it.
Yeah, that's what I'm on.
Yeah. So I tried that, and they basically said the likelihood of this working is pretty low. Give it a go. So I did, started it, and I was like, I'm healthy, I'm better, I'm feeling great. And I had to do obviously a few tests to see how it was actually working. And my doctors were like, your inflammatory markers are too high for this to be working. This is clearly not doing what it's supposed to do. But I'd convinced myself that, it was working, it was fine. So they scheduled another colonoscopy. It was quite a traumatic one, I won't lie. It took about 2.5 hours.
Bless you.
The whole time. And he said to me after, the guy that had done the colonoscopy, he said, I don't know how you're still functioning. He said, the state of your bowel at the moment is just appalling.
So how many times were you going to the toilet then? How were your symptoms during that time when you, as you said, convinced yourself you were better? What were you living with day to day?
Probably going to the toilet 10 times a day, which, in comparison to 30, 40 times a day, is a lot better. And it didn't feel as bad for me. But I think I just got used to it. I got used to living like that.
How did it affect your body image and your mental health? Because we've met you face to face. You're quite petite. You're quite, well, you are. You're quite dinky. And how did the flare-ups affect you with regards to that? Because if you're quite dinky now, I can imagine that you was close to emaciated before the stoma surgery.
My weight it was either I was on steroids and I put loads of weight on, I had the classic moon face, my face would swell up, or I would be at the point where I'd lost, loads of weight. And it was just it is a constant battle, isn't it, internally with your body image, because I would go from being, a size 8 when I'd lost loads of weight and, be really slim, 6, 8, to then, putting loads of weight on, being on steroids, and then, being like a 12, if you like. So it doesn't seem a lot, but it's such a big difference. And it was just a constant back and forth. I think only now, a couple of years after all of this, I'm finally at, a steady weight and, a steady sort of lifestyle now, I suppose, as well.
How did you find being admitted for the stoma surgery? Because you had the proctectomy surgery and the end ileostomy formed in one hip, but you had keyhole surgery as well, didn't you?
So yeah, I had my stoma formed one surgery, and then Barbie part was a year later. Sorry. When I was admitted in, it was planned for my stoma surgery. So once I'd had that colonoscopy where they basically said, this isn't working, you need to have this now, you don't have any other options, I then was like, well, okay, I need to accept this. I need to just, take it for what it is. But I was in my second year of uni at this point. I'd just gone back, and I said to my surgeon that I didn't want to have to take another year out or another gap. So we'd planned it so that I would finish my second year and then have my surgery. So I had to be on steroids for sort of 6-7 months pre-surgery. So when I was admitted in, it was planned. So it makes it slightly easier because you've got a lot of time to prepare for that and know what's coming. But it's definitely a shock to go through that.
obviously, because you had the temporary stoma formed, did you have an end ileostomy formed at the time, or was it a loop that they gave you? Because I think everybody seems to think, like, when you've had stoma surgery done, I think people seem to forget, they seem to think that they've just literally cut it off from part of the bowel and you've got that bowel kind of hanging about in your body.
Not at all.
When it's not the case, it's just literally a case of they kink it, they knot it, cause a diversion with the stoma, and the rest is left to calm down. How did you find that? Because didn't you develop diversion colitis, and you had a lot with the blood and the not so pleasant smells from the rectum before the Barbie butt?
So my first surgery, they took my whole large bowel out and just left the rectum in. It was just too much sort of colitis in it to save any of it. So had the stoma formed, they left the rectum in. And then no one tells you that, after the surgery, your rectum can still be active and have active colitis.
That is so scary.
And no one talks about it, do they?
Nobody.
Like, no one. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up.
And I remember coming back home and having to rush to the toilet again, and blood's coming out, and literally texting my friend who also has a stoma, being like, "Oh my God, something's happened. Something's gone seriously wrong here." Like, I thought that, because obviously they staple your rectum up inside, I thought something had gone seriously wrong. She was like, no, that's normal, that happens. I just thought,
it's that sheer panic though, isn't it? That absolute moment of pure unadulterated fear of, oh my God, why is this coming out? Nobody said this was going to happen. What is going on? Because I think you automatically think, oh, is something unkinked? Is something got stuck? Is something loose? And it's not explained enough, and it really should be explained.
I mean, the way I was described it is, so I've got a loop ileostomy, and the way they've always said to me is, look, it's a good sign if you're passing stuff through your rectum still, because it means it's healthy as it can be and it's working. It is still a functioning organ. It just happens to be not where your waste is passing through. So they said it's more if you're not losing anything, and then if you see blood, it might, that's not a good sign. But
that's the thing with diversion colitis, because diversion colitis isn't explained. Most of us, our bowels perform a bodily function, and if that bowel, even though it's resting, isn't performing that function, it can just basically, it's like a toddler throwing a tantrum in the nursery. And it's like, well, I'm not doing what I'm meant to be doing, so I'm going to cause a little bit of fun. And the problem that you've got with diversion colitis, for many of us, unless you have reversal surgery, the drugs to clear up the diversion colitis don't work. So for those of us that a reversal isn't an option, will have to have the proctectomy surgery to get rid of the debilitating symptoms that you're having via your rectum with the blood and everything else, because the only way to stop it is to take it out. And I think the mentality that you have to have, especially when you're having Barbie butt surgery, is you have to fight with yourself, knowing that once the rectum's gone, that's it. That is us for life. And I mean, how did you cope with that, with you being so young?
I think I'd already sort of decided that I wasn't going to have it reversed. I think there's a lot of people shocked at my decision, like you say, because I am so young, and not have it reversed. And like, don't get me wrong, I spoke to a lot of people, both people that had the reversal, so they'd had it diverted back and sewn up back to their rectum and whatever. But I also spoke to a lot of people that kept their stoma, and for me, it was a very easy decision, which I think shocked a lot of people, because I'd gone from being so ill that I wasn't leaving the house. I was going to the toilet 30 times a day. You don't sleep, you don't eat. To then having this whole life that I could do things, I could go out, I could eat what I wanted, and to not have to worry, rectum issues aside, what's the need to, fix something that isn't broken, if you like?
Yeah.
My thinking was, if I have the reversal, I've then got to learn how to go to the toilet again. They said you'd have to wear adult diapers. And I just thought, I'm too young for this. I don't want to, have that reversal just so I don't have a stoma. Like, in the grand scheme of things, what difference is this going to make to my life? Yeah, I'm going to have a bag,
Well, I think as well, when people think of stomas, if they don't know enough about it, they see it as something that's a problem or something that you don't want or a last resort or your life is over. Whereas we know that actually, in many cases, it's a gift. Mine, to me, is a gift. I'm the same as you. If anyone wanted to say to me, right, you need reversal, but no, thank you. I do not want one at all.
No.
I mean, we've just recently had World Ostomy Day, and everybody was posting bag out photos, and this is my stoma bag and everything else. And I'm always along the lines of the bag is there to catch the waste, whereas the bag, in the grand scheme of things, is a lot bigger than our actual stoma.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's like watching people and seeing people like some of you posting up with the barrier rings with your stoma out, or you with your stoma out, or me with a stoma out. Our stomas are such a tiny part of our life. Figure, literally speaking, mine's like 20 millimeters. So that tiny little thing on my stomach has completely changed my life.
Yeah.
How do you, with you being so young and obviously having that permanently there, how have you managed with your body image? I mean, you have a fantastic figure, and watching you when we was at the shoot, sometimes you can have girl crushes. Well, girl crush. It's seeing you, because you've had keyhole surgery without the scars and without the stretch marks. I think for somebody your age to be able to see you and find you relatable and to be able to aspire to be like that and get on with life, how do you find that?
Yeah, I just think I probably have a lot better, body image, body, confidence now than I did before. Especially like, when you get ill, you just want to hide away, you don't want to show off anything or be the center of attention or be, draw any attention to yourself for that matter. So, if you told me that I would then be doing photo shoots and getting my bag out in my underwear, I would never have believed you.
Yeah.
So it's just been such a change that, I do love my body now. It is healthy. I'm happy. And that's something that, I'll never really be able to get over, because I was so unhealthy for, not a long time, but for a few years. Yeah.
Well, because we are very immersed in the stoma community, we know plenty of people on a friendship level, on a, just through social media friendship level. But so I think sometimes you take it for granted that where you live, there aren't that many people that are living our lives, is there?
See, the thing was, if social media was a thing back when I first had my stoma surgery, if I'd have seen an image of Summer with a stoma bag or with her ileostomy out, that would have been so helpful back then for me to see.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're all representative of different figures and different surgery types and different illnesses. I mean, how did you find recovery after, obviously, the proctectomy surgery? Because you had a few issues, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a nice surgery. The Barbie butt isn't enjoyable. I'll be honest.
The whole waking up with the tube, which feels like you've literally got a log wedged between your butt cheeks.
So
could you guys just, I haven't had it. For those of us that haven't seen, or could you paint the picture of you've had your surgery, you wake up, what is coming out of where, what's going in where, what's going on? Sorry.
So, right. So for my Barbie butt, I had an epidural. My pain was poorly managed the first time round. So I was very keen on having something that actually, done something. So I woke up from my surgery after the Barbie butt. I couldn't feel anything from the waist down. I was laid on my back. I didn't have any drains, anything. I've never had any drains.
Oh, you're lucky.
Mine was just sewn all individual layers. So my rectum obviously was closed. Obviously a big scar, but couldn't feel anything. I woke up. I think I ate about 20 custard creams.
Those first biscuits. Oh,
yeah. So at that point, I'm thinking, this is great. I can do this. And then I turned to my side, all the epidural laid in one leg, so I then couldn't move, half my body. So they flipped me back over onto the other side to try and even it out, but it just wouldn't budge, so they had to take it off and stop the epidural.
God.
And that's when the pain starts to hit. I won't sugarcoat it. It's brutal. I was a lot healthier, obviously, going into my second surgery, still on steroids. But yeah, a lot healthier, but it's a lot harder surgery to recover from.
But the problem that you've got as a female having proctectomy surgery is where they go through and how they go through to get out the rectum and remove things. So you had keyhole surgery, whereas mine was a laparotomy. I was opened wide up and my rectum had adhered to my uterus. So they was in places unpicking things to try and get my rectum removed. So I had drains in places I didn't even know that you could have drains, and waking up with a drain literally in the front of your pubis, so it's basically going through the vaginal wall, and then you've got another one in your abdomen next to your stoma, not to mention the drain between one's butt cheeks because of how they had.
So you both had a drain between your butt cheeks?
No, Summer didn't.
You didn't have to have that.
Did you have yours packed, Louise?
No, thankfully for me, given my healing history, my Barbie butt healed absolutely fine. However, having the drain removed from said Barbie butt, I don't know, this is a really weird thing, but when they remove drains, because things heal up around the drain, it kind of has to be tugged and pulled out. So the best advice I can give anyone, if you're having the drain removed before going home, take the pain meds half an hour before having it pulled. It's just a case of deep breath in and let them pull out. Yeah, having that feeling of having the drain removed and popped out, it feels like things are just being pulled out of your body where they shouldn't be pulled out from. But I mean, how was you with your hormones? Because I know for 2 years post-proctectomy, it took a very long time for my hormones to settle and for all of that to settle down there because of the swelling.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really have many issues with it. I think I was quite lucky in the sense that once it started to heal, I just seemed to go back to my normal self. Didn't really have any issues with that. Obviously, they say one of the big concerns of having a Barbie butt at my age is like fertility issues. With obviously me not having any children or, any plans to have one, anytime soon. That's probably the only thing that they're, cautious of. But yeah, I didn't really have any other issues.
I was going to say, you do know that because of the surgery that you've had, dependent on what trust that you're under, that you can actually, when you do decide to think about having children, because of the proctectomy surgery, you can actually go for a pre-pregnancy counselling meeting. So you can have things checked and your fertility levels checked and things checked before you do decide to proceed with pregnancy.
Yeah, I know they do offer a lot of support. And even when I spoke to my surgeon about it, it's not a definite that there's going to be, scarring around the womb or anything like that. So it's just one of those that when you do have your surgery and you sign your life away on all of these different, possible side effects, it is just one listed, isn't it?
Yeah. I wanted to go back to the rectal mucus only because it's never really spoken about. And I do think it's a side effect that it's, there's one thing when we, post things where we're showing our bag and that, but I do think there is this massive stigma about rectal mucus because
it's the 3 a.m. sitting on the toilet waiting for literally what feels like the world to fall out of your backside when it's a tiny little nugget amount.
Yeah, and I mean also with, phantom rectum pains as well, and the feeling of needing the toilet when obviously you two more than me, I mean I get them. It's not very nice, annoying as hell. I can't imagine what that feels like when you've had Barbie butt. I mean, obviously you're not going to pass mucus because you've had Barbie butt surgery, but how are the phantom rectum pains? How often do you get them? How do you manage that?
Time in the month.
I like the, rectum, like mucus stuff first. For me, it was just like obviously mucus and blood. and I would probably have that, 10 times a day.
How did you deal with that? I mean, I know like some of us, I mean, I had surgery when I was a couple of weeks old for a stoma, had it reversed at 2, had a J pouch formed. Then I had more stoma surgery at 30, so I've had it all really. But I mean the rectal mucus I still get to this day, and I do have control there, and I do hold it 9 times out of 10. But I'm not going to lie, I don't always. And it's how did you manage that 10 times a day?
Sanitary towels.
I think you just get used to it, don't you? I was then at that point as well back at uni, so this was obviously post-stoma, pre-Barbie butt.
So was that away from home? Sorry, was that back in Newcastle?
So I stayed and finished it back home in Essex. So
okay.
It wasn't as hard because I wasn't going out and about as much because I was doing my degree from home, and with it all being on Zoom, it's all
of course, yeah.
So I managed it quite well. The phantom rectum, so where you feel like you really need to go, I did get that, but sort of post Barbie butt, I got it for a couple of months, but since then I probably get it like once every couple of months, and I think.
And what does it feel like to you with the phantom rectum? Because everybody has like a different way of describing it.
Yeah. I just think, oh my God, I really need to go to the toilet.
What do you do? Oh, sit on the toilet, yeah.
I go and sit on the toilet, and then I'm like, oh, I haven't got a bum anymore. I physically can't go. I almost have to like retell myself that, and then once I think, I can't, it's fine.
Yeah.
And it sort of passes quite quickly. And I just try to do something else to distract myself as well from it.
I mean, how in your day-to-day life as you are now, and you said you're feeling really healthy and you do everything you want to do. I know some people live in the camp of they know they've got this stoma, they're conscious of it all the time. Other people forget they even have one. Where do you lie in that camp in your day-to-day life?
I'm definitely on forget I have it, to the point where, I just don't think I have it. I forget, I change mine quite regularly, once every day, once every couple of days, more for sort of personal preference. I know you can obviously leave it a bit longer. I just find that allows me to just, forget it's there. And I think that's, part of finding the right stoma bag and, all of that really helps with, just living your life with it.
That's lovely, isn't it, to hear?
Yeah. How do you find your stoma? Because obviously everybody's different, but obviously because you was ulcerative colitis, I'm guessing that your stoma is a bit more slow because you've got the ileum at the end.
So my stoma, so like my output's very like watery, it's very liquidy, depending on what I eat as well. I'm not eating as much, but it comes out quite a lot. I find that things leave my system very quickly as well. So it's just a case of, just monitoring it, I suppose.
And do you ever play with whatever comes out sometimes? Because I know this This isn't spoken about enough. So you see it, so everyone's sat here laughing and going, what on earth
is where the gentleman in the booth next door is about to hit record.
So with an ileostomy, dependent on what parts of your small bowel have been removed, I've got a very short digestive tract. So the majority of what I eat is normally out within the hour. If it's carbs, fluid, vegetables tend to stay in me a little bit longer, but I've kind of like have a time system at home of whether it's potatoes. So I avoid potatoes. It pancakes my bag, gives me blockages, it pushes my bag off. But there are times that if you don't chew very well, the veg kind of comes out the way it made its way down the esophagus.
But that happens with people without stomas, though. But
you don't play with your faecal matter, do you?
What do you mean by play?
So when you fill your bag and you've had peas, and sometimes if you haven't chewed them, they come out whole. So you pop them as to sit in the bag. So you use your bag like a stress toy. What?
I think we need to get you a stress toy, Louise.
I have. Get a fit. What does Jake have? thingies.
Fidget toys.
That's it.
Fidget spinners.
Ask Santa for that.
Yeah, but don't you sometimes feel your bag and you can feel the stuff coming out and you're like, I know exactly what that is just by feeling, or am I the only person?
I'm sure you're not alone. I mean, I don't do that. Summer, I do you do that?
No.
What, not even in the morning when the bag blows up? So you know when you have to do the side crawl out of bed? What? I'm weird.
Oh, love you. We love you.
Ben says it's my party trick.
It is. It's a fabulous party trick.
Can you tell what you've eaten by just looking at it on the bag?
Oh, well, yeah, there is that.
Thank God for opaque bags and no more
but
ones.
I do like the bag I use. So I use the One Piece Moda V, and I do love that huge window. Because, you know, if I've had something and I've got a bad stomach, maybe the consistency changes, maybe the colour, and I can just have a visual check. And normally 9 times out of 10, oh yeah, definitely that's to do with something I've eaten.
Having that viewing window, it kind of lets you know what things are doing. So I use the barrier rings because my output breaks down the base plate. And sometimes if I cut my base plate a bit too wide, you can kind of see the moisture is drawing the barrier ring up the side. Up the side of the bag, and I can see it through the window.
Because you use the same barrier rings as us, don't you? The Free Seal. So we were talking about this to Keith actually on the last episode. So when you woke up from your stoma surgery and you were told what to use and that, were you told about seals, and why did you start using them?
So when I woke up from surgery, I was given like the hospital issued bags, no seals, anything like that.
Wasn't in a jazzy black or anything. It was beige.
No, just it's like a beige, like a see-through.
Oh, that's so depressing, isn't it?
How did you find that? Because I think the shock of waking up with a surgical ostomy bag and how swollen the stoma is at the time. Yeah. How did you find that? Because the other scary thing is they keep that opaque bag on as long as possible. And if they change it, they keep it opaque until they check whether your stitches are dissolved or your stoma's doing what it's doing. But kind of being able to see that day to day, hour by hour, and watch the changes that your stoma is going through in that period of time. How did you find that with your mental health?
So when they had the clear bags on, I really didn't rate it, I'll be honest. It's just one of those where you think, you know, I get why you've got to do it, but I don't really want to see that. Like you say, it's very swollen, very sore. You know, there's a lot going on. So I just brought covers to put over them while they were clear.
Oh, that's such a good idea. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah. And then as soon as I was able to do it, and, you know, I got my own bags and I got into my own routine.
So what about so when did you start using seals and why?
So I used the seals, I think it was probably like a month or so after my surgery. I was just finding that whatever bags I was using just weren't lasting. And I just kept getting leaks and, you know, things like come onto my skin. So I used some seals. They were very thick. Sort of did the job in regards to helping the bag last a little bit longer. But I just found them really constrictive. I'm a bit of a fidgeter. I like to move around a lot. And I just found it like tugging my skin every time I moved.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, because unfortunately some barrier rings are more like a plug, they're more like a washer than the ones that we use that move with the body.
They're so thick. So then I was only using the Eakin Free Seals. I only used them because they were so thin. Yeah. And then, just started using them from there. And to be honest, I don't ever change my bag and not put a seal on now.
No. Question. Do you put your seal on your skin or on your bag?
On the skin.
Yeah, see, I do as well. And then I think someone shared the other day, someone putting it.
That.
Yeah, and I tried it the other day. I thought, right, I'll have a whirl. But I just didn't feel like I had enough control. I like to know I've sealed that peristomal skin in before I put my bag on. I don't know about you two.
Everybody's different with how they do things. It tends to be more Americanized, where they place the seals actually on the base plate around the hole and then put the bag on. But I remember like back in the day of like trying to mould, like, you know, like how mouldable the free seal is and like how we pull it apart. It's very easy just to tug it a little bit to the size of your stoma and then put it through and you've got the correct seal. And I remember like back in the days of like first stoma life and watching the stoma nurse do that with the barriering. And I'm like, my God, it's like you need a PhD in Meccano on how to like kind of get it to like the shape of the stoma. But using the free seals compared to other barrierings, it is an absolute game changer. Being able to get that around your stoma and not have to worry about anything getting onto your skin is it's a relief.
So you were with your partner pre-surgery. So how did you find that? How did you both, as a couple, a young couple, navigate all of that the hospital stays, the changes in your body, and how did you guys find that?
I think I probably lucked out.
No.
I mean, look at this. You can tell she's in love. She's glowing. That's not just hair oil.
Can't start that again. We'll never get this done. I think for me, you know, I've been with my boyfriend since I was like very young. So, you know,
how old? How old?
16.
Oh.
So you know, it was pre-colitis. You know, it was during colitis. And then it was the surgery, and then it's, you know, Barbie butt. It's that whole transition. And I think as well for him, you know, more than anything, the stoma surgery was the right thing to do because he's seen firsthand as well, you know, like my family, how much pain and, you know, how much I was suffering. So it was a good thing for, you know, for me as well as everyone else, because I really did get my life back.
It's nice to see, because doing what we do on social media, especially with regards to some of the younger generation, everything is so much more of having a perfect life and things being perfect. There is kind of, especially like with likes of Love Island, there's like a narcissism that goes behind having the body attributes and being physically perfect. So having a relatively young, like yourself, 23-year-old with somebody and with a partner that loves you and hasn't changed because you've had the stoma surgery, it's quite positive and enlightening to see, because we do see it all the time in groups. I've had my stoma surgery, my partner's left me, my girlfriend doesn't like it, we're no longer intimate. It's upsetting to see, but
it's just finding the right person, isn't it? You know, like yourselves, you know, we speak to a lot of people that are looking for a bit, you know, just someone to chat to, a bit of friendly advice. And I think a lot of the time, you know, you need someone that's going to be able to be supportive, and not just your partner. You need really good friends. You need, you know, good family, because it is a really big life-changing thing at the end of the day. I think we sometimes gloss over that because it is our everyday lives now. But it's so important to talk about. And
I think that there's I'm just trying to think of the mental impact that it has on our partners.
I think it's hard for them. I know, speaking to, you know, my partner, my family, it is a big thing. It's a big worry as well. You know, there's a lot of risks that come with the surgery. You know, I think my first surgery, you know, it's like 8 hours, isn't it? You know, my second Barbie butt was, I think, a bit longer. So that whole time you're just worrying, aren't you? I think you forget that because you're so involved. You don't think about that, and just trying to reflect on how other people.
Would you say that, like, the advice that you gave to your partner and your family is like, don't Google things, don't go on YouTube? Because I made the epic mistake of Googling and YouTubing. They've stuck a proctectomy surgery on YouTube, and
I have seen. So one of my really close friends, Ali Little, Miss Quiet, she might know her as, she was helping me sort of prepare for my surgery. And she said, do you want to see a video? I watched a video before mine.
Oh, no.
I said, I don't know if I want to, but I mean, was like, yeah, go on then. And then I was like, yeah, probably not going to watch that again. It's very gruesome. But I would probably say that just be informed. I had a lot of people come with, to meet the surgeon, ask a lot of questions. There's being informed, and there's, I think it's difficult, all the information out there. You've got different groups, different forums of horror stories. You've got all of that.
That's the thing. We only ever tend to get the horror stories. We don't always get the positive. Mm-hmm. And I just remembered it was only after my proctectomy surgery that I'd realised that my surgeon had probably seen me naked more times than my other half.
Lucky man.
The amount of times I've been down in theatre. So it's quite a lot to wrap your head around, because you don't think about that, do you, until you're absolutely mortified, sitting in an appointment fully clothed, and your surgeon asks you about the latest tattoo and does my mum know if I've got it.
Oh my God. So, I mean, Summer, just to finish off, what would your advice be for anyone that's struggling to accept their stoma from your perspective?
That's a good question. I think you've just got to learn to love it and learn to love yourself for it. And I think that comes with confidence and getting back out there. I think we all probably, hide ourselves away a little bit, especially when you're ill, you've got colitis, Crohn's, or, we've got anything else that leads you to that. You're not in the right head frame and you're not in the right space. So I think coming out of that, give yourself some time, reach out to us, speak to people that can relate, because as great as it is to have an amazing support network of family, friends, partners, they're never going to understand. So sometimes you just need to speak to someone that's been through it, get yourself back out there and just own it, I think.
Oh, well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And it's lovely to see you so happy and healthy and glowing. And
it's just lovely. And she's been sending us hair all.
Yes. And if anyone wants to know why Summer's hair is glowing, we have links we can send. But thank you so much for listening to Beyond the Pouch. We hope you've gained something valuable from this episode. And thank you so much, Summer. And we'll catch you soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.